Get started in 3 minutes. Our service will begin in 3 minutes. Get started here in less than a minute. Our service will begin shortly.
Man begat this one, begat this one, begat this one. And it just seems like a list of names, part of the normal lineage that you find in the Old Testament, until you realize the point of Matthew is that Jesus is time. Right now, we could stop and tune out all the distractions and actions and grateful that we get the privilege to give back even just a portion of what we've been given. But we have read this text together. This will be our third of David, a Savior, which is Christ the Lord. process of time, maneuvered will toward men did not start the night that Jesus was born. God's first act of goodwill toward you and me, to create us, to make us, and then to allow us to have the acknowledgement of his goodness and his greatness. This creation was God's act of goodwill. His act of goodwill didn't stop there, for we find just moments after the curse has fallen upon man. In fact, in the same breath as God is giving curses to the sinners who have violated his law, the one thing they had to do was simply live inside the environment of the Garden of Eden. All they had to do was enjoy its blessings, to participate in communion with God. That is all they had to do. And in violation of the law, they sinned against God, and they were removed from the garden. And in the very same breath, God tells us of his goodwill. When speaking to the serpent, he says this in Genesis 3:15, "And I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel." It was right there in that moment that God demonstrated, I'm not done with man. I'm not done with my plan for humankind. It was there that God gave a promise to the woman. Someday, a man will be born of a woman, and that man born of a woman will bring a blow against Satan. A man born of a woman. This is why the virgin birth is so beautiful, because he was the first man born of a woman. Jesus, without the aid of Joseph, was born of Mary. This seed of the woman would come to bruise the head of the serpent. Well, when did that take place? Well, it happened at the cross. What Satan thought was his grand scheme came crumbling down in Satan's defeat at Calvary. Satan holds no victory over you and I any longer because he was defeated at the cross. Oh, he took a blow to the head back then. This is the account given here. You will bruise his heel, serpent. You will bruise the heel of Jesus. That happened at Calvary. You say, well, wait a second. Jesus didn't take a bruised heel. They nailed him to a cross and he died. I remember the story. Exactly. Has anybody in here ever had heel pain before? Anybody ever had heel pain? Yeah, I've had heel pain before. And when you're having heel pain, you think you're going to die. Have you ever done that? So I think this might kill me. This might be the thing that ends my life right here, this heel pain. And you think you're going to die. Here's the truth. Very few people, if any at all, have ever died of heel pain. Very, very few people are going to die of heel pain in this lifetime. And the reason is because the heel pain's, it's not terminal. Now, if you take a blow to the head, that's altogether a different thing. You are far more likely to die of a blow to the head as opposed to a bruise to the heel. And the reality is that is what's being portrayed here. Satan, you think you've gotten the victory. You're going to bruise the heel of Jesus, because one day, 3 days later, Jesus is going to step out of that grave victorious over death, hell, and the grave. You thought you had given him the terminal blow. But my friend, he has just gotten started. It was like a bruise to the heel. But Satan, you're going to take a crushing blow to the head, and he's going to end your kingdom through the grace of Jesus Christ. And so it is. God's good will was Jesus Christ. His plan was to redeem us back to himself. As a matter of fact, God's plan for redeeming back the sinner from their fall was not first mentioned all the way out in the middle of the Old Testament with some prophet Isaiah or Micah or Nahum. Rather, God chose right at the very curse of man, the very beginning, to give us the promise to look forward to that one who could defeat our great enemy. I want us to recognize this beautiful picture that I've painted for you. Go back with me now into that garden, moments after Adam was created, and you find there a perfect picture of peace. Adam at peace. The moment sin happens, we find a disruption on all of that. Peace is gone inside their hearts. They're filled with shame. They can see that they are naked. They see all of this. Insecurity begins to form immediately within inside of themselves. Why? Because they had violated the law of God. They had lost peace with God. And in losing peace with God, they ultimately lost it inside of themselves. And moments later, when God reveals that he already knows the sin, and the curses have fallen upon human and upon the earth and upon all that happens in the Garden of Eden, and all the curses have been dispersed, what ultimately takes place is that man is no longer at peace within himself. You know he's no longer at peace with himself because of the shame. He's no longer at peace with those around him. Why? Because instantly the blame begins to happen. She was the one. She did it. No, it was the serpent. The serpent did it. And all of a sudden, the peace that they once enjoyed with God is gone. Instantly, the peace within themselves evaporated, and the peace that they shared as husband and wife